Good afternoon, friends. I'm Tom Korkich, and I'm the lead pastor at First United Methodist Church here in Moorestown, and it's really my pleasure to be able to offer this message to you as we are gathering virtually on this sacred day of Good Friday. It's also going to be the last time that I'll be with you, as I've been reassigned to another United Methodist Church in Bloomfield, New Jersey, beginning on July 1st. Let me just say that, even during my short stay here in Moorestown, I've really been blessed to be a part of this community and having the opportunity to serve alongside just some outstanding colleagues as a part of the ministerium. So just first of all, thank you. Thank you for being an important part of my journey as I look forward to a new assignment. So the word that I want to share with you today is the traditional second word that Jesus speaks from the cross, and we get that word from Luke's Gospel in the 23rd chapter, verses 39 to 43, and here's how that goes. One of the criminals who were hanged there kept deriding him and saying, "Are you not the Messiah? Save yourself and us." But the other rebuked him, saying, "Do you not fear God, since you are under the same sentence of condemnation? And we, indeed, have been condemned justly, for we are getting what we deserve for our deeds. But this man has done nothing wrong." Then he said, "Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom." He replied, "Truly I tell you, today you will be with me in paradise." Now, 3 of the 4 Gospels recount this scene of 2 criminals hanging alongside Jesus. And according to tradition, the first one to speak was named Gestas. Now, we don't know that for sure, but tradition tells us his name was Gestas. And Gestas chose in these final moments of his life to continue with the taunts of Jesus. And so he says, "Are you not the Messiah? Save yourself and save us." But he was quickly interrupted by the other criminal. And again, according to tradition, this criminal also had a name. His name was Dimas. And Dimas chooses a very different path, doesn't he, from his co-conspirator. He admits his crime. He accepts his fate. He recognizes that Jesus has done nothing wrong to deserve this sentence. And then he speaks these words of contrition. "Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom." 2 very different deathbed speeches from these 2 men, Gestas and Dimas, who are both guilty of their crimes. But the difference between the 2 men is that one's dying words are filled with derision and taunts and avoidance of guilt, while the other man, his words are filled with repentance and hope. And with the words of the latter man comes Jesus' second word from the cross. "Truly I tell you, today you will be with me in paradise." They're called criminals, they're called thieves, but the way I look at it is that they're really representative of the human condition and the human response to that condition and the reality of sin in all of our lives. And so they really represent you and they represent me. Now, we'll come back to them in just a minute, but let's first just flesh out for a second this idea of how they represent each one of us. So, here at First United Methodist Church, we've been looking at the 10 Commandments during the Lenten season, and we've been doing that through a sermon series called Words of Life, based on the book by Adam Hamilton of the same title. And what we've discovered in this sermon series is that for each of the commandments, there is a context that helped to shape it and helped to give it importance in the ancient world. But what we also discovered is something very powerful, and that's that Jesus would take this context and he would expand it, and he would grow it for each one of the commandments to include a much broader application that applies to many different aspects of our lives. So in the ancient Near East, taking something that wasn't yours, for instance, we'll use that example, must have been a big problem, because almost every law code that we find from that time had a prohibition against stealing. So that reminds us of these 2 criminals hanging on the cross with Jesus. And of course, we find that where? We find that in the 8th commandment, thou shalt not steal. And yet we can see how Jesus takes this basic idea and he expands it to say that if you want to follow me, if you want to follow in my path, if you want to live out the will of God in your life, not only should you take or not take what isn't yours, but you should also practice a lifestyle of caring and a lifestyle of generosity for others. In other words, if stealing means taking what isn't yours, then the opposite of that is giving of yourself, giving of your time and your talents and your gifts, and giving those to people who may not expect it, perhaps those who don't even deserve it. And we might call that random acts of kindness or random acts of blessing. But it's this idea that not stealing is kind of just the baseline for us. That's where we start. It's the baseline for our lives as people of faith, but that if we really want to ramp it up to the level of discipleship, the level of following Jesus, we need to practice a lifestyle of caring and a lifestyle of generosity for others who we come across in our daily walk. So that is sort of the high bar, if you will, that Jesus sets for us in this world. And as he does with all of the commandments. But as we're painfully aware of, in some ways, we are imperfect creatures, and sometimes circumstances and temptations are going to get the better of us, and we are going to fall short, aren't we, of that level of discipleship that Jesus calls us to. In other words, as we discovered in the sermon series here at First UMC, and as Adam Hamilton titles in one of his chapters, we're all thieves. We're all like Gestas. We're all like Demas. And Adam Hamilton says, yes, even you're a thief. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, oh, that's not me. I don't take things that don't belong to me. I'm not a thief. But I think when you dig a little bit deeper, you'll find that at the very least, we're all guilty of breaking the spirit, at least, of the commandments. And so I had the opportunity to share a bunch of scenarios with my church family here in which that might be the case, and hopefully I was able to shed some light on how we break at least the spirit of the commandments. And I won't go through all of them today on this Good Friday, but maybe just think for a moment. Think for a moment of the times when maybe even inadvertently, maybe you didn't pay for something that you received, or you borrowed something that you just never got around to giving back. How many times have you done that? I know I have. Or you cut some corners on your income taxes. It's that time of the year. Or you didn't point out a mistake on your bill because, hey, it was in your favor. I mean, I think you get the idea. In each one of these instances, the spirit of the 8th commandment is being broken. Just like we break the spirit, probably, of all the commandments in some ways. Now, we may not mean to do it. We don't do it on purpose. It might be an oversight, or maybe we even rationalize it in some ways. But what it comes down to, friends, is that, as I said, in one way or another, we're all like Gestas. We're all like Demas. We're all thieves. Yes, even you and me. And that brings us back to those two who were hanging on the cross with Jesus, the two criminals or thieves as they're called. We read from the Lucan version of this story for today, and in Luke's version, the Greek word that's used to describe these two is kakorgoi. And kakorgoi literally means people who have done bad things. Now Matthew, following Mark, uses the word lestai. And lestai has more of a connotation of a violent person, even a revolutionary who's trying to overthrow the government. And so that makes some sense to us, right? That's why they would wind up on a Roman cross, because Romans didn't take too kindly to people trying to overthrow the government. But despite what word we might go with, these were not pillars of society, we know that. Nor were they just common criminals. Whatever it was that they did, it's about to cost them their lives. And they're left with a decision to make in this moment. How would they respond to Jesus? Friends, this story should give us hope. It should give hope to all of us. Some of us, I'm sure, have tried to live the best lives we possibly can and have tried to do the right thing as followers of Jesus for years and years and years. Others of us may have had more checkered paths. We might even think that we're too far gone and that there's no hope for us and that we're beyond repair. And so in response to Jesus, we might just say, oh, no, Jesus, you don't get it. You don't understand. You don't know what I've been through. You don't know what I've done, the type of life that I've led. Well, we'd be wrong about that, wouldn't we? Jesus does understand. And we know that because of that first word that he speaks on the cross, the one that we just heard preached for us. A word that these two kakorgoi, these two lestai, these thieves, criminals, revolutionaries, whatever they were, they heard him say that word. And that word is forgive. Forgive. Forgive them, Father, for they do not know what they are doing. Who was Jesus speaking about when he spoke those words? Could it be that he was speaking to all of us at that moment? Every one of us who has ever fallen short of the lives that we've been created to live, every one of us who has ever broken a commandment or even just the spirit of a commandment, every one of us who has a past that we're trying to overcome, every one of us who thinks at times that there's no hope for us and that we're beyond repair, every one of us who is in need of grace, which, by the way, friends, is every one of us. One thing we do know is that those words of forgiveness stirred something deep within Dimas, the one criminal who accepted this path of forgiveness. And with forgiveness comes reconciliation. And reconciliation lies at the heart of the second word that Jesus speaks. Jesus, remember me, Dimas says. Just don't let me be lost. And Jesus replies, today you will be with me. Not tomorrow, not next year, not a millennium from now, today. Right in this very moment, he says. And that means with me, you are never lost. Friends, we are all Gestas and Dimas in some ways. Yeah, our sins might be different. We do different things to get us in trouble. But we're all faced with this moment of decision when we come face to face with Jesus, the one who offers us forgiveness. On this day, on this Good Friday, will we join the crowd, or will we follow in the way of the one who offers us this gift of forgiveness, this gift of reconciliation? Amen.